They're pretending to care.
That's just window dressing. They're just pretending like, oh, we want to bring older players back. What's going on, everybody? We are back again here on Hearthstone Meta Hype. I'm here with E-Core. What's up, E-Core? We are chilling. I am VengaDragon, and this is the second segment of the fastest growing podcast show on the internet. I'm just kidding, but we'd like to thank everybody that's listening.
Maybe about Hearthstone.
It's the fastest growing Hearthstone show, right? But
yeah,
I'm just with all due respect, we're growing just at a pace that we love, and we appreciate everybody that's listening and giving those thumbs up and stuff. So we're just going to get right into the first topic here for this segment, and it is something that's been pretty popular that I've seen a few times on YouTube and also on Twitter and a couple of different places. I've seen best ways to improve Hearthstone and bring back players. So I'll go first, and then we'll get to E-Core's number 5. So let's start with number 5. For me, get rid of some random generated cards. Reprint those cards as Discover cards, class specific. What I mean by that is that random generated cards are kind of they're not fun always, because like weird things happen and it takes away some of the preponderance of skill, in my opinion. But Discover cards are much more of a skill set that I think is overlooked. A lot of people don't realize how situational Discover cards can be. Drop the Discover card itself and then discover that card at the wrong time, and your game plan changes from when you drop it in a later turn when you think you may need it. In other words, like, do you choose whether or not to save that card for a later spot, and then also discover at the later spot, if you follow what I'm saying? Because knowing that certain cards have discovery in them can help you guide you through what situations you may need them. The closer you get to making that decision, it is better to play that card, if you follow what I'm saying. You understand what I mean there?
No, yeah, you think that Discover is better than just random because it'll be like a more situational thing, and it requires more skill to like choose from 3 cards as opposed to just like, oh, randomly generated 8 cards off of evocation,
right? And
oh, what's that? I randomly generated 3 other evocations off of my Wand Maker and Kobold Spellkin,
right?
Oh, okay.
And
it's just
yeah, and it's just like crazy. I mean, it's not that those cards you don't need and they're not unplayable. Like, they're probably very situational, but like, you're going to get like something, and it could turn out that it's the right card to do it. But in that case, if you're not picking from 3, right? You're picking, you have no choice at choosing the wrong card or the best card of the 3. And that's where I think that the game really needs to improve, is number 5, is that get rid of some of those random generated cards, bring back more discovery cards, and don't make them too OP. But, the 3 on the board where it says choose one, I always love that. So what's your number 5? Because we're going to do 5 reasons. So you have any first reason you can think of?
Number 5 for me, just like probably the first reason that's not super important, but I'd like to see it happen, and I know they're working on it, is that new game mode. I think that will bring back a lot of players. I think Battlegrounds brought back a lot of players. The only issue with that, from what I saw, is that a lot of people like switched to Battlegrounds permanently, which honestly isn't even that big of a problem. I mean, people are playing the game, and Battlegrounds is a fun game mode, and I feel like that'll just build back some of the hype. But the only reason why it's number 5 is because I know that they are working on it, because it's on the roadmap. So I'm not going to be like too pressing on this one, mostly just because of the fact that they are planning on working on it. So it's not like something that needs to change right now. It's not something that it's like, if you don't change this, it'll ruin the game, like random generation kind of feels like. But it's something that would just be pretty nice to have,
Yep, I agree. And so we're going to bring it up to number 4. And number 4 is, I want Hearthstone and to still have aggressive decks in it, but I want them to revisit the aggressive decks. And I believe that aggro is a lot more difficult to play than people give it credit for. But the thing is it just seems lately that the new aggro decks that are out, they curve so well. And they
they're so good.
Yeah, and they tend to just be so top decky. Like it's just like top deck oriented. Like you kind of almost don't even have to mulligan, right? You know you're going to get the right curve. You know that it's like just way so. It's like just there's really. I'm not saying there's no skill in them. They're not as easy to pilot as people think.
They actually do have some skill. I've said this multiple times.
Yeah, but they're just unlike the aggro decks of the past. And there's, obviously you're not really trading all that much, but there's ways to like manage your mana and manage like the way that you're going to drop down in your tempo and how you're going to do it. What seems to happen is that because that certain cards, like they generate other ones that give you draw and they give you lots of minions and stuff, that the cheating out of like the hero power on Hunter for nothing, for 0 mana, like those type of things that makes the game sort of stale in that sense, because like for example, they'll drop turn 4, they'll drop down the Dragonbane is the mech,
the 3/5 for 4.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're gonna
that when you hero power does 5 damage extra to something.
To something. And that once they like, it's very likely that you're gonna see that card played on turn 4. So that makes that card way more powerful. And it's like, and then it was a lot slower, and that's a really, really overpowered card to do it. So I just think that revisiting aggro decks and taking out like some of the things that make them sort of like not fun to play against will bring back even the aggro players, the players who they're not even fun to play sometimes, because it's just like, okay.
Sometimes you just dump your hand and the game is over turn 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Whether you won or you lost, it's just like, well, I've dumped everything.
Yeah, 6 minutes, ready to rock and roll again. Let's go. 6 minutes I'm dead, 6 minutes I'm rocking, 6 minutes I win, get back into another game. I'm just playing. But you're not even having fun. It's like a game of attrition to some degree.
Like I like tempo decks a lot more than aggro decks. Aggro decks is like dump your hand as quickly as possible and get some hero powers in there. And tempo is more of a like play whatever the best card on that turn is, but like you don't dump it in the same way. Like it's still fairly aggressive, and you play the best option with the stats or whatever can do the most damage. But it's not like Face Hunter, where literally you'll have like, I think 18 or like 14 of my cards are 1-drop, somewhere in that range. So most of the cards that I draw, I will play. Like if I look at my face deck, 25 of my cards in my Face Hunter are 2 or less mana, and you just kind of dump your hand, maybe get Voracious Reader and draw some extra cards, and it's just kind of lame.
So revisit the aggro decks. Don't take them out of the game, but just restructure them into a place where an aggro player can exert some more skill. And also make them so that it's not just so super quick. Like it's not that they always win, but they're just kind of like whatever, boom. So number 4 for you, any other thoughts on that? Or do you have another 4? Do you actually, I should ask you, do you have 5, and are they different than mine? If I covered it, then you already, you don't have to just make one up.
I have 4 that I can think of right now. I don't know what yours are, and one of them is similar to yours, but in a different take on it. So it's my number 4 actually, and it has to do with RNG.
Yep.
And you were saying that you think Discover is good, and you should have more of that and less randomly generated things in general. I disagree. I think that there should be less randomly generated things overall.
Period.
Including discovering cards. Or if you are going to keep Discover cards, don't make the Discover cards so good. Like, think about it. We have 10 different studies in the game right now. A 1-mana card, Discover a card, and reduce its cost. You lose no tempo at all for randomly generating potentially a very good card, because the card is reduced in cost. In fact, it can up your tempo, because being able to play like a 4-drop or something turn 3 can be extremely strong. So not only do you gain tempo, but you got a randomly generated card that could be really, really strong, and the opponent has no idea what to do. I think that back in the day, there was that jeweled scarab. I watched a Rarin video about this, and I think he had a very good take on it. Jeweled scarab used to be a 2-mana 1/1, which is bad. Like, the stats are bad, but you discover a 3-drop. And it was not necessarily a minion. It could have offered you some pretty bad things. But the important thing was that the Jeweled Scarab itself set you behind in tempo with the stats. And I think the only, like, recent card that does the same thing right now is the Volpera Scoundrel, a 3-mana 2/3, which isn't as bad as a 2-mana 1/1 in my opinion. 3-mana 2/3 is, like, okay. You do lose tempo, but it's playable. But you get to discover a card. And I think that if you do want to do discover, you need to weaken all of the discover cards. You can't gain tempo and get a randomly generated card your opponent doesn't know how to play around, all in the package of one card. It needs to be you lose tempo to gain that little bit of mystery, so the opponent has to, like, play around some extra stuff. Because, like, don't get me wrong, I like the studies. I think the studies are cool cards, and I think that every single class having one is interesting. But I feel like just having it be 1 mana and then reduce the cost. Also, fun fact, I don't know if this is a bug or planned, if you discover something and that minion is dormant, so, like, a good example is the warrior one, you can discover the 3/5 rush minion and play it, and the reduced cost doesn't get taken into account because technically it goes into the field dormant, but it's in your hand as a rush minion. So you can actually get that discount 2 separate times.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah, and I don't know if that's a bug or they planned on it working that way.
That's awesome.
But just imagine if you could, like, if that wasn't the only way that you could somehow exploit the increased tempo. Like, there could be even more ways to exploit this stuff. And I don't know. I think that if you discover a card and get an extra card, you should lose tempo. Because think about it. Like, to draw a card, you lose tempo.
Yeah.
And this is, like, potentially a better draw card because you can get, like, the perfect card potentially.
Well,
so I don't think that you should get good stats or get things on the board.
Yeah.
And also get a good card the opponent can't play around.
Well, that's that's, like, really, really insightful, and it's, like, great thinking on your part as well. And sometimes I wonder if the guys and the developers think this deeply in the game. And there's a lot of really good players that are designers for Hearthstone. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that they always challenge themselves to put themselves in the shoes of us. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I mean, I do like the aspect of there has to be some element of sacrifice. And the example that you use, like, is a perfect example of that. So I could be swayed that all the randomly generated cards and even discover cards could be moved out of the meta. I think that's not a bad idea. And for the reasons that you gave, is pretty cool. But they're almost the same reasons why I believe that they should be reprinted and put in there, is because you can make those sacrifices and make the game more playable. But here's the thing about...
No, yeah. I think I worded it wrong.
No,
I think
you didn't.
that there shouldn't be less in the game. I think that the Discover card should be weaker.
Yes.
But still in the game.
No,
because I think Discover is a cool mechanic.
Yeah, you did.
And can be flexible.
Yeah, you did. You did make sense out of it. You're totally clear as far as I'm concerned. The one thing I wanted to say is that older players who are, when we talk about, like, they're not about age, but just players who played a long time ago.
Experienced players.
Yeah, experienced players. They were playing in a meta that was designed around the idea of, think about, like, chess, right? Chess is an entertaining game to play, right? And maybe that was kind of like what Hearthstone was like when it came. There was an element of, like, a little bit of chess in it, or a lot of chess, and, like, strategy and skill, moving the pieces around and doing stuff like that. It's entertaining, but it's not jumping out of the seat entertainment like you are at a football game. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference. I think that some of the players who played, that started playing back then, like, you know, whatever Hearthstone is saying for older players are concerned, their older fan base, they might be people that were more into the cerebral part of the game rather than the shoutcast part of the game, where, you know, everything has got to be, like, over the top. Funny that I mentioned this. We're from Hype Horizon, and the word hype is in our name, right? And I'm talking about making the game a little less hyper and being more subdued. But I wanted to get to number 3.
Okay.
And that was really kind of the preference of number 3 is that just for the most part, there's a newness factor in the game, and everything that seems to be the good old days, even when those good old days were broken, the newness factor took over. In other words, there was always like Hearthstone was a new game. And at some point when it becomes stale to you, it's not necessarily because of the game itself. It's just because you just want to just play something else. You can't eat peanut butter and jelly every single day, and or pizza every day. Although for me, pizza is kind of nice. I could see myself eating pizza often, but I don't think I would enjoy it every single day. But you get the point.
I don't know. I like pizza. I could probably
I think I could. But you know what I'm saying? It's like not every player is like us who play on a daily basis, and not everybody grinds as long as we do.
For a stream, yeah.
So the problem is that it may just be one of those things that gone are the players that used to play more consistently, just because they're just not interested in playing it. They want to play Among Us, or maybe they want to play something else. I don't know.
Something else, yeah.
They're just moving in. So one of the things though that I thought that could do is so to get some newness in the game, you might want to maybe they could do like a release of mid-card expansions. In mid expansion cards, for example, like let's say the meta is a month old and the current expansion is a month old. They leave some things on the table. Instead of releasing all 135 cards at the beginning of the set, maybe they should release 110 and then bring out 25.
And they release the other like 35 or 25 on another one. That's actually not bad.
Like, or a month at a time, 10 a month. And then they kind of add them in there, because that brings in like that, someone says, oh, wow, let me go back and see what's happening. Yeah. Oh, I like this. And I'll play for a little bit, then they leave, they say, okay, then they come, oh, wow, there's something new again. So it's every month in the set, maybe there's just some things they should leave on the table. And instead of just throwing it all out there and then let us play for 3 months and 2 years, you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
No, yeah, that's kind of why I liked Galakron's Awakening.
Yeah.
The solo adventure that got you cards like every single week. You'd get like 8 or so cards. The only issue with it was that like you had no other way of crafting the specific cards you wanted. So I feel like if there was something like that, like every single expansion halfway through, there'd be like a solo adventure for like 3 or 4 weeks. But this is important because it'll be a thing that I talk about later on. Don't make it also cost money for the players to get access to. Allow them to get access to at least the cards they want with dust. Don't have this paywall in front of them that keeps them from doing it. I feel like
Agreed.
A good balance of that would be a great thing to just have extra cards put into the meta, because I think the Galakron's Awakening, the cards and the event itself was pretty good. I think several of the cards are even being used now, and a lot of people liked several of the cards that were printed. It was just that the paywall made it upsetting for a lot of like free-to-play players.
Yeah, like a lot of players couldn't get Reno, right? They didn't have Reno in their deck. Not Reno the card,
and they're
but
like,
Reno the hero.
where's my top end with Mage going to be? Like, I have Puzzle Box, great, but like Reno's insane.
Yeah. And so they didn't,
and I can't even get them.
So that kind of turned players off. They were like, I can't get all the cards. I gotta pay. Especially older players too that were with the base at some point. They got used to grinding it out and learning how to manage their dust and gold and everything and grind it out and do some free to play. It's not that, we don't want Hearthstone to go out of business just because we want everything for free. But I do agree with you that putting certain cards behind a paywall
a little
is
bit
unfair.
less of a paywall.
It's unfair, right? So, okay, so
like not have the only way you can get it be like, oh, you have to spend gold or even money to get these cards.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, that one like solo adventure really pissed me off in that sense. I feel like Blizzard has done okay in terms of the paywall. They give you a free deck and stuff like that, but that solo adventure actually ticks me off a little bit.
But you're back.
Because like my viewers would be like, I can't get this. I literally can't get this card. I cannot spend the $20, and I don't have the gold to do 4 wings.
You didn't go nowhere. Look at you. You're still here. It didn't piss you off long.
Okay, well, that's because I spent the money. I was more pissed off for other people who might have quit.
There was a person.
Because I got.
You know what pissed me off? There was a person in the comment box on your channel that called me Thalnos. You know what I'm saying? Well, you know what? I used to be called 6 months, maybe a year ago. They used to call me Cragmar. You know what I mean? So I lost some weight, but I'm still out the gate. So to you, my friend, who called me Thalnos, I take it as credit because he's nice and thin. You know what I mean? He's got nice skin on his face. Oh, he's a skeleton. Never mind, no skin. But anyway, all right, let's get to number 2.
Oh, wait, okay.
Number 2.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening on one of the sort of podcasts or whatever, we are on YouTube as well. But let's get to number 2. Number 2 for me is learn the difference between a healthy meta and a fun meta.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of...
they are you talking about the article where they're like, this is the healthiest meta we've had in a while?
Yeah.
But like...
Yeah.
I've said that multiple times. I'm like, dude, this meta's healthy and there's a good variety. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
It's just like,
like, so, but the thing is like, if you think about it, right? If there, and this could go kind of a segue back, or not a segue, but like an extension of the random generated cards. If you put in like enough random generated cards, of course the meta will be balanced and healthy, because the win rates of decks will be very, very similar because you've taken out
everything's random.
The variance.
Theory of large numbers. Everything will even out over a long period of time if people play enough games.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you play enough games. You know, remember when the statistics that they're talking about are not based on short-term variance. They're talking about this is like a large sample size of all the players in there. So of course, they will sort of even out. But that doesn't. You know, the stats like 53% doesn't equal if you know what I'm saying, like if every deck is like whatever, it doesn't equal fun. Like just healthy doesn't equal fun. It's not exactly, you know, it's like because the healthy, well, we got the meta is healthy now. Aren't you having fun? Isn't that what you wanted? Well, yeah, we wanted a healthy fun meta. We didn't just want a healthy meta. And that's the thing is Hearthstone players and just players in video games in general are pretty fickle and we're hard to please.
We'll complain all the time. We will complain about everything all of the time.
Right. But, you know, and sometimes it's justified and sometimes it's not. And in this case, though, I believe that there are some interesting arguments on both sides for the meta being healthy. I totally agree. I think that there are like a lot of diverse decks, but there's only ones that are somewhat they're not so fun. Some not fun to play against, some not fun to play even on themselves. But I get back to the thing is it's not always fun to scream your head off, you know. Oh my God, look at that! I played out Puzzle Box. Oh, you know, Hearthstone, the YouTube channel, Hearthstone replays or whatever it is. You know, best of Hearthstone moments. All it is Puzzle Box. Everything's Puzzle Box, and how people are just like, oh, another Puzzle Box. Oh, look at that win. It's so insane. No, it sucked. That sucked. You got it's no fun. That wasn't fun. That sucked.
No, yeah.
It sucked for
like,
you.
Even if you play as it sometimes, like sometimes it'll just like kill your board or pyroblast your own face, and you're like, well, that was stupid. Yeah. But you have to take into account that they are trying to cater towards like a casual player base that probably finds these random mechanics fun, and I think that I think that it's fun to play as. I just think that there needs to be some sort of like division between the casual players that want that style of gameplay and then the competitive. I feel like there shouldn't be that many randomly generated cards or randomly generated things and competitive, because that's what makes it less fun for me. I feel like it should be more skill based.
I agree with you.
But if you take out all of those cards, then like those decks will suck.
Yeah. So here's the deal, right? So then why ask the question? I don't want to answer that question now. I'm just going to throw it out there. It's Hearthstone that's asking the question: how do we bring old players back? They don't.
No, this is a Twitter post for those of you who don't know. It was a post on Twitter.
Right, and you know what that is? That's just window dressing. They're just pretending like, oh, we want to bring older players back. They're pretending to care. But we want to. But we really want new players, and we want to cater to the new players. But how do we bring back the old players? Well, number one, ask them. how they'll get them back, and that'll bring some.
Yeah,
of
and
them
then it
in.
makes it seem like they care, and then it'll start this kind of discussion.
Yeah. So
and it'll bring some people like, oh, maybe they're gonna make some of these
Yeah.
changes, and people start like testing the water a little bit.
there's
Yeah.
one of my conspiracy theories again, but like I said, I'm not really a conspiracy theory guy. But we're going to get down to the number one reason, and this is it. This is it. End of story. This is the one that will bring old players back to the game, and it is not subject to debate. And number one way that you can get Hearthstone back to the way it used to be and bring back the players that have long gone is to strong arm Ben Brode and force his return. And I'll help pay him millions as he was born to sell Hearthstone cards. Having said that, we'll see you guys next week. In the meantime, stay hype.